this past summer. And we're really, really excited to get to do it again, to have the chance to do it again. So
make one little adjustment, we will be all the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I did my video, so stupid dates.
Have any of y'all done digital before? I did not do anything. Okay. So, where did you go? I went to Israel with Dr. Strange. So we talked.
Oh, you did the meeting? Oh,
that was awesome.
that's like the, I'm not trying to undersell my trip, but boy, to go and live there for 4 weeks or so, it's about 4 weeks, right? Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's nothing to substitute for time. Europe is so expensive that, you know, we'd love to stay there a month. It just gets prohibitive, but I love that trip. It's really good. Hey, we're gonna get started just in keeping with your time and everybody's time, and just let you know that if you need more information, you have to get a leave. That's fine. If you need more information, it should all be on the website. And I think Jen, if I don't move around, that'll probably help. Yeah. Jen is going to have even this little blurb that we're giving, kind of advertisement. So this is somewhat of a mixture of trying to get you interested in going, but also answering your questions. We're going to lean in on the latter part. So what I want to do is just show you a few pictures and kind of the general ideas about where we went, or where we will be going. We have been there already. We've run this trip in the form that we're looking at one time, and it went really, really well last summer. But then I got some little student testimonials. I figured I'd like to hear from people who are like you and went on the trip. You may even recognize some faces. So this is a mashup trip. It is multiple course credits, but it's a common itinerary. So what we have is a kind of itinerary that takes us through, as we say, the heart of Europe, the middle part of Europe. Let me show you there. If you're looking at a map, trying to figure out where we are, we kind of start here, which is down, actually, they've moved, you know, or excuse me, they moved it on this map, but generally down here in Prague, which is not an Austria. Oh, here we are. I'm not sure why that's lit up. Here we are. Okay, and then we kind of work up and over and then come down and wind up here in Geneva. So what we're tracking, and the original idea of the course had to do with listening to the Reformation, but and the reformers in different places around Europe. So it started out as a kind of history and religion course, but we broadened it to think about two important themes. One is revolution in general. I'll say a word about that in a second. Then the other has to do with how the arts fit into all of these kind of social and cultural movements. And we're really trying to give you a broad entry into the trip, but also, frankly, breaking down a lot of these kind of disciplinary boundaries. You can't really talk about the Reformation without talking about art and music. And to think about the art and music of the period, it's good to know something about the history. So this just kind of tells you where we're going and some of the general facts. So it's the first part of June. There would be a little bit you would do online before that, but generally you're committing to this about a 15-day, 16-day window there. That's travel on either end there. Your course credit options, and many of you may be here for, as if you're coming for Beth's class, the SOA 200 class, which you can do if you would be taking basically the course with Dr. McGinnis. And if you're interested enough to apply, you'll indicate which course you want to be part of. If you take the course that I'm teaching, it has several different applications. You can do upper level credit in history or the department I teach in, which is biblical and religious studies, or you can do gen ed, humanities, social science. So, and we travel by planes, bus, automobile, all kinds of places.
That was one of the learning objectives, actually.
Yes.
For
please come on in. Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the learning objectives is that we want you by the end of the trip to feel comfortable. You may already be world travelers, or this may be your first time out of the country. But I want you to feel comfortable to think in your mind, hey, if I had enough money, I could fly to Europe and know how to navigate by train and by bus and you know, getting around on subways and all that. There are a lot of soft skills that moving around you really get that you don't get when you just go and stay in one place. Although there are benefits to doing that as well, like going and staying in Israel or in London or something like that. So that's one of the kind of side benefits that we like to sell.
We didn't put boats on there, but there are.
Oh yeah, we go by a boat too. I need to add boats to my list.
Yeah, there's a dinner cruise on the last night, but there's also a boat taxi in Geneva.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
crossing the lake.
Yeah.
It's a lovely city, really. It's an expensive city, but a lovely city to end the trip in. So all I have is a few pictures for you, your beautiful guides there. This is in Prague, which is just a gorgeous city. It was not destroyed during the Second World War, largely intact. So you get a lot of great medieval culture when we start there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I really want you to hear from the students. Don't worry, the square is usually not this crowded, but I wanted to show you the kinds of places that we stay. So if you know much about the history of what's called the Velvet Revolution, there's a lot of political change going on in Europe in the late 80s and early 90s as the Cold War ends and as the wall comes down. And we visit a lot of those places. And even though you may think that always means war, in many times, many cities like Prague, which is, we're staying right here. Right, in fact, you can barely even see the little Ramada sign right there where we stayed last time. I promise you, it's usually not this busy. It's just a normal kind of thoroughfare and street. But this is when the communist government fell. Something close to 1 million people crammed into this square. So we're staying right in the heart of things, and I really like that about the trip.
And students and artists were at the heart of that revolution, that cultural revolution. So I think it's so pertinent to your place in life, your time and place in life. It was a lot of students and people in theaters in Prague, actors and directors and people that were involved in theater in Prague who were at the very center, and even a poet who were at the very
They elect
center.
a poet as president.
Yeah.
Imagine that. We're right in the middle of presidential politics, right? They wind up with a poet as their first president after the wall falls. We go to a really cool jazz club in Prague. I'm just again showing you some pictures. Here are some of our students about to enjoy non-alcoholic Sanford approved beverages. Jim Lackey.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
But this is a nice little jazz club. It's the oldest jazz club in Europe. You can see it's got this kind of red velvety vibe to it. And we had a nice, we were actually in Prague listening to somebody do French
Cabaret
songs.
songs.
Yeah, cabaret songs. So it's a lot of fun. And just a way to kind of get to know what a pretty vibrant art scene in Prague is like.
And you can see they're having fun, but it was such a rich cultural experience to be at that jazz club that night. The performer was doing French cabaret songs, but she sang in probably 4 different languages during that evening. And they were all, you could understand the emotion of the song even if you didn't understand the language. But that was also emblematic of our trip because we were in places that were not primarily English speaking. It was easy enough to get around because when you're in Europe, most people can handle a little bit of English or a lot of English, depending on what industry they work in. So it was plenty easy for us to get around, but we did have a chance to practice some different languages ourselves. And we didn't try very much at Czech, but we did do a fair amount of practice in German and French.
Yeah. And we hop a lot of borders. So if you're just trying to decide what trip, that if you say, I really want to go on a trip and you're comparing, know that ours has that benefit. Again, we're moving around a lot. The trade-off is you do a little bit of living out of a suitcase, although we've reduced that a bit last time we've extended our stay in Prague by a night and so on. We passed through Dresden. I'll talk more about that if you're interested, but it was totally, unlike Prague, totally destroyed, firebombed by the Allies, and as a rebuilt city largely, although some of the buildings dated before that. Great, and it's kind of on the way. It's one of our on the way stops. We do a day there and see a magnificent old masters gallery there. So if you're on the art side of the trip, you're getting great exposure to Renaissance art. We land in Wittenberg and spend more time there, which is the home of Martin Luther and the traditional beginning place of the Reformation. So just some scenes from there. We actually parked there for about 4 nights, I think it is. And it's a nice kind of central home base. And then we begin to take some day trips on trains out of Wittenberg. So you get up in the morning, it's nice to be able to kind of unpack. It's a small city, it's easily accessible by foot. You can feel kind of, it's easy to get around. It's not like being in a large urban area. And then 45 minutes you're in Berlin, or 30 minutes you're in Leipzig, and so it's a nice central.
One of the things that we were able to do in Wittenberg is attend a Protestant worship service in Wittenberg, and we were able to compare that later on by attending a Catholic mass in another city. And that was, it tied really easily into our study of the Protestant Reformation, but also into how arts can support and can interact with those theological ideas and social ideas that came out of the Reformation.
Yeah, I skipped over, but you will get to worship in the church there where Martin Luther preached regularly. This is the kind of city church, the people's church, as it were. If you know the story about the 95 Theses, this is the reconstructed bronze door after the original wooden door burned of the church where the Castle Church. There are two churches in town. So this is our group from last year. Does anybody recognize any faces? You don't know any of the folk there? Yeah, so the best way to find out about the trip, go talk to those people, right? I've got a couple little videos I'll play for you, but there's nothing like a student's eye perspective. Speaking of, this is so we're in some different spaces. This is part of the Luther house, which has been restored. This cool mirror they had on the floor where you could look up and see the paintings on the ceiling that I got everybody together. I mentioned a day trip to Berlin. We jumped kind of forward away from the Reformation in that era, older part of history, down to the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is the same here. You get to visit the wall, see portions of it. There's a wall museum. There's some other, Berlin's just a great city. We'll look at the Reichstag, which is the governmental house, a great architectural moment. You want to tell them about briefly about the why that's special?
Well, I'll say most of it, but it is special because it's a very intentional connection of architecture to political ideology and to, I would say, political and social idealism, the kind of society that they wanted to have after the fall of the Berlin Wall is reflected in the architecture of the Reichstag.
Good. We got a Leipzig back on the music side, so we're kind of hopping back and forth sometime between, political, social, theological, and then artistic, the home of Bach, and get to go to a concert in Bach's church, which we did last year. We were actually there during the Bach Festival, which if you're a fan, that's where you want to be, right? There were, 4,000 or 5,000 people, and then Leipzig was a larger city than Wittenberg. It was really interesting. We also saw ballet there. They have a nice ballet. Good art house there. So, I don't know if you can see, but Bach here is wearing a t-shirt that says Luther Rules. So
Eliza and Owen and Anna have just sort of had a tour of Bach's.
They may have more Bach than you need here. I'll say a word about food. So we go to this city, which is Erfurt, another great medieval city. Luther hangs out there undercover. He starts his life as a monk there, and then not too far from there in Eisenach, he's undercover when he's on the run. But I include a nice picture of a sausage. If you are a meat eater, and don't worry if you're not, but if you are, you can have more sausage than you ever care to. This is in the Thuringia area, where this is like their favorite. And I was just fascinated by the fact they give you this little bitty bun to hold this really long sausage, right? This is the most popular children's character in Germany. It translates basically into burnt toast, kind of like a SpongeBob figure, but that's a piece of burnt toast, and I could not resist getting my picture maker. So we go to Eisenach, so you get to visit a medieval castle that sits up on a mountain. This is where Luther hangs out. It's also where Anabaptists are held and imprisoned. If you know that story, if not, I would love to share it with you. People who, on the basis of their religious conscience, resist the religion of the state. So a lot of very inspiring stories.
Yeah, and we also, when we're there, we visit the Bach house in Eisenach and get to hear some performances on early instruments.
Yeah.
And on this organ, one of our students this past summer, got to operate the bellows or the.
Oh yeah, Charlie. So this is you have to work this pedal. You can barely see it right there. You have to work this pedal in order to make the organ work. And he just stood back there with this really rather even. Pumping. I don't know if he got tired or not, but then the guy said and played. So perhaps the oddest thing, and in fact, I was just talking to a student not long ago that she said this is her favorite thing. It's an odd-looking building out in the middle of the field in the former East Germany, and the communists built this as a testament to a war that happened like 400, 500 years before, the Peasants' War of 15. In fact, we'll be there during the anniversary. This occurred to me. We'll be in the 500th anniversary of this battle. This is one of the largest paintings in the world. It's about 40 feet tall and about 400 feet long. It's in the round. So you come up inside, and what you have is a vast panorama, and it's a destination museum. It's hard to describe, and the picture's not going to capture it. You can find out more about it online. So it's a great example of kind of art and the way that history comes forward, because the communists were kind of claiming this Peasants' War as very much in line with their movement.
It really is out in the middle of nowhere, and some of the students were asking as we were walking up to it from where the bus dropped us off, like, is this okay? We're like, yeah, it's really okay. It's okay.
You feel like you're in a field, but then all of a sudden this thing kind of rises up. So
yeah.
I'm going to finish these pictures so I can show you some videos here. But Strasbourg, which we absolutely love, it's a lovely city that's kind of surrounded by water, and you've got all these great bridges and canals that you can do. It's our one little dip into France. So if you're wanting to hear some French speaking, and it's a mashup city. It's actually in an area that has been part of a tug of war between Germany and France for several hundred years. So it's a mixture of German and French culture, and you get a little bit of both things, right? In terms of food, you'll still get some German stuff, but it's right there on the border. If you look, it's essentially our stopover city as we go from Germany all the way down to Geneva, which is about an 8-hour drive that we break up in half over a couple days. And can't miss stopping in this lovely city. There's also a massive cathedral. That picture does really do it justice, and that's where I went to a mass.
Also, we got to see a wedding there.
Yeah. In fact, we saw 2 weddings. Then we one in the cathedral, and then we were on the courthouse steps, and there's a wedding, and there's like this little who was it? Some little dancing, singing band that was celebrating the bride and groom as they came out with the whole kind of heel slap things, and that go on with various kinds of traditional folk dances. So we wind up in Geneva, which is a great city. It's one more kind of stop on the Reformation part, but there's other stuff going on there. There's a good art museum. And then the last thing that we do, which I want to show you here some clips from, is we have this lovely lake cruise on the last night. It takes about 3 hours and you don't even go halfway up the lake, but you see all these great little scenic villages. You're in the Alps, so you're in between, great mountain ranges like this, and you get a really nice meal. So I've got some videos for you, but I'm wondering now that I've blown through all those pictures and questions or just kind of things you want to talk about. I do want you to hear from some students, kind of why they did what they thought. But
any questions at this point?
Yeah. I meant to put up my question signs. We do occasionally pass out on buses, but that's all right, right? You get some nice downtime. Let me
Will there be any time for like overnight on a bus? That's a great question, but not overnight on a bus. And so the way that we organize the trip, we are traveling to lots of different locations, and we'll be in hotels. And there'll be a few times where we're in the same city for 2 or 3 nights at a time.
Yeah.
So we sort
2,
of
3, 4, I think is the most we stay anywhere.
Yeah. But we travel on a bus in between cities.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we take a day trip from the city where we're staying in a hotel for 2 or 3 nights. We leave our luggage there, and then we take a day trip, and we take the train on to get to whatever city we're going to, Leipzig maybe, or Berlin, for that. But we're not doing any of that overnight bus or train travel.
So 2 things about that. One is we figured out, and I'm glad we made this choice, it's way easier if you're moving luggage to have a coach. Trains are great, but they can be really crowded and dragging a bunch of luggage on and off. We decided not to do any intercity travel with trains when we're moving hotels. The second thing is the longest, but some of the bus rides are like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. The longest one we do is that Germany down to Strasbourg. I think it's about 5 hours, but we're not on buses for terribly long periods of time. We try to kind of break it up. So there's always, it might be like you wake up at 8, you're in Dresden by 10:30 for getting on a bus, and from Prague to Dresden, about 2.5 hours, something like that. But the longest little stretch is about 5 hours.
And by the time that long stretch comes, you're ready for a little bit of some downtime on the bus.
Yeah, and you get a little time to journey. I mean, I will say we over program a little bit the days, because I want you to come home exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? I really do. I want you to come. I'm going, I need a week to rest. In fact, Mrs. Mrs. McGinnis and I went to the south coast of France and just laid around for a week after the trip. So that's one thing you can do once you're over there is you can tag on, you know, an extra little trip if we had students whose family came over, but we didn't do anything, right? It was 2 weeks, we went hard and then we went and laid around on the beach in Nice. So yeah. Worst places to be. Let me just show you a couple of, some of these are like 30 seconds or a minute, and kind of fun. I hope I've got the volume about right.
Hi everyone, I'm Candy. I'm in Geneva right now on dinner cruise, and I'm doing my SOA in Prague, Germany, and Switzerland. And I think I'm to do it because what Prague, and here's you can find what better way to do SOA than abroad. You really see things like this. You don't get to see it. And to learn so much. It's so immersive that everything you get to see and the culture that you can be part of.
People are behind her trying to make her laugh while she does these, which is why she's a little distracted. So I'll show you another one with my student. Let's see, find Mitchell here.
There it is.
Yeah, but that's the second one. Yeah, so Mitchell, I don't know if you know Mitchell, he's a religion major, but I showed this in a class earlier and somebody said, look, it's Tarzan, right? I think of Fabio, if you know him from a previous thing, he's got this gray hair. He and I had different problems on the phone, we just said that, right? So here he is giving this pitch.
So, mine down the side. Experience that, worry about it around a lot. I also say that's I think one of the things about learning in general is to know about their environments and studying abroad. But then you don't be in a different environment. It's triple out for so many different they're close together, but it's still different minor rights and it becomes that.
Yeah, great. All right, now all the people who are messing with him didn't show up in this next little video. They didn't want to make their own video, they just wanted to mess with his.
Mitchell, did you make any new friends while you were on the trip? All of my new best friends. Oh, wait, who are this? These are your new best friends, so I can zoom out. That is awesome.
So one of the things that happens, if you've traveled before, you probably know this, especially with the student group. If you go not knowing anybody, it is so easy when you're spending, 8-10 hours a day right around people kind of in relatively close proximity. You will find people to hang out with. None of them knew one another. And Mitchell, our ratios, not unlike many Stanford ratios, there were 16 women and 4 men on this trip. And Mitchell got kind of adopted into this group of one night. I think the guys were going somewhere and Mitchell didn't want to go. And so the girls, those 3 took him along. And after that, they were like the 4 of them, they went everywhere together. So you have a really great, it's another side benefit if you don't, you get outside of your normal kind of tracks that you follow at Stanford. So, I got one more I'll show you, and then it's 22 after here, so we can just take whatever questions you have. But I'm going to show you Charlotte. I thought what she had to say about food and other kind of things is kind of useful.
I went on the SOA in Prague, Germany, France, and Switzerland. And my favorite memory was probably just, I really loved taking the trains everywhere and getting to see all the transport in different ways. I thought it was really interesting, just like how cars would be forbidden in the city. But not as much use, just to make competition more available and just kind of easier and everything. That was really fun to just take the train from we took a day trip, so I think a bunch of places like Berlin and Leipzig. The train was really cool to see the sky that way. Not the window. My favorite place was probably Strasbourg, France. We had a really big hotel and looked out onto the streets. It's just really scenic to open up and just how people walk. It's really funny and just how they interact and everything. But yeah.
Did
You try any new foods at Gelato?
I did, I tried, I went down from Spatzel. I tried Snipsel, what else? Tried a whole bunch of things, I can't remember now.
Of course, gelato.
Yeah, oh well, I guess I tried that, but real gelato. But it was all so good. I think that's so important. And like when you're traveling abroad, it's like try the new food and really be open about it. That's how you can like really get immersed in the culture and like just food is so important to each country. So I think that's a really important thing.
That's a great point. We mentioned the sausage, but, and we didn't necessarily think, if we're not traveling to Italy, that there would be lots and lots of gelato, but there was. And so that was, there was sausage, but there was also lots of gelato opportunities on the trip, so.
Let me show you where to go if you want more information and eventually then where you're gonna apply, if you're interested. So Google Sanford Abroad, that'll take you to a page that I don't think I left up here, but then from there you can click on May and summer programs. You scroll down that, you see all the marvelous things that Jen Lackey and her group have put together, all these different things, and you come down to what is clearly the best one, which is Arts and Perform in the Heart of Europe. You click on that, you get this. This page will tell you several different things. It's got a few little descriptors there. But you get down here to the bottom, it'll remind you or tell you about the courses and make sure that if you want to go on the trip, we can figure out a way to fit it into your curriculum. I'm pretty sure of that. So give us a chance, right? If you're meeting with your advisor, it might not be a bad thing to bring up our lovely mugs and more marketing. Here's the interesting part, right? Or the bad news, you might say. How much does this cost? It runs about the same as most of the other European trips. So all of them are kind of in the $600 to $6,500. We're at $66.22, which includes your course fee and your tuition credit. Now, if you're doing SOA, it's a 3-hour course, so it'd be $350 minus $350 there. So it'd be more like $6,300. That's what you're actually going to pay Sanford. The other costs that are listed here are estimates. And the last time I checked, I saw an airfare. You wouldn't buy your airfare this early, but I saw an airfare that was in the $1,800 range. It is expensive to get to Europe. We don't, that is, the Sanford doesn't buy your airfare and put us all on one plane because many of you might have access to miles or your parents or something, maybe gifting that. So we just kind of, you can join us on a flight over if you want, but we just kind of say meet in Prague at noon on, this day, and you can find your way there. That also works really well if you want to travel early with your family, as some of our students did, or stay late, as some of our students did. So those costs are real. That is the non-billed costs. You do have to get over there. And then in terms of personal spending, that's kind of all over the board. Geneva is a great city to spend lots and lots of money in if you want to. You can buy that $5,000 purse, right? Or the really expensive watch, but you don't have to buy a lot of souvenirs and things like that. So,
and the other cities are not as expensive as Geneva.
Right, Geneva is the most expensive place. There are other places that you can get good souvenirs for people. If you happen to be, and I don't think I see any here who are religion majors, you can get a small scholarship that's departmental for our majors, but I don't think you, unless I'm not meant to, I don't see.
There's also a scholarship for any School of the Arts majors. So if you're in any of the School of the Arts majors, you can also get a scholarship.
I didn't know that. That's great.
It's pretty new.
Perfect. So I'm wondering then, to sign up, you should be aware that the first day it's the 18th, is that right?
That's correct.
So October 18th is a Friday. And let me just tell you about what happened, our experience with this trip last year. By about 9 or 10, we had several of the SOA 200 slots. We'd already gotten more than 10 applications. We have kind of 10 slots for each, for a total of 20 people on the trip, which is a great size to travel with. And so if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to go ahead and set your alarm and wake up on the 18th there and log on at 7 a.m. and do that. You can, it says the window goes as far as December 5th, I think, but you might be on a wait list at that point. So it's a good idea to be thinking about. And I think at that point, what you're committing to is a $200 application fee.
And not even that if you get waitlisted.
Yeah,
so you'd only owe the
waitlisted, you don't have
$200.
to do that, but you get a $200 application fee
Yep.
to make sure, if you have a trip you really want to go on, and there's some flexibility. I know that that people get moved around over one trip to the other. But if you have one you really want to go on, I'd encourage you to think about it in the next couple of weeks. So with that date, I'm wondering what questions you have. Yes.
So, I went to reading the same thing as like a May in the summer program, but you have to do two separate, like a lot of trees or just one for all.
That's a Jen Lackey question.
So you can apply for a May and a summer, but since you only get accepted to, if you get accepted to both, then you will owe 200 for each because they are two separate trips. You wouldn't be able to say, I only want the May one at that point and only owe the 200. You'd be accepted to both and then you'd pay for both. But if you got waitlisted for the May one, but got into the summer one, then only the 200 for the summer.
Yeah, I guess if you got waitlisted for one and got into the summer, the June one, then you could just say, take me off the wait list, right? I don't get
Yeah.
moved up.
Correct.
What kind of credit are you looking for, or do you think of SOA? Yeah, yeah. There's what, 4, 3, 4,
There's 6.
6 SOA. It is the trip to go on. I tend to be the one who has to do a little bit harder recruiting to get people to do gen ed, humanities, social science, because not as many people have that as part of their required curriculum. In my college, Howard College, they do, but not everywhere. So, any other questions or? How many of you have been to Europe? I know one here. How many of you been to Europe already? Just one, yeah. It's expensive. There's no way around it. And I got a kid in college. I'll hopefully be sending to Europe here in the next summer or two. I will say it's rewards every time I go, right? And in terms of flexibility of life, try to find some time. This is a general advertisement for Sanford Travel. Try to find some time while you're in college to travel. Because you've got as much flexibility in your life right now as any. So if you get over there, and if you travel with a friend or to have a family member come over, it's really nice to add a week or even just 4 or 5 days. There are a lot of cities we're seeing, but there are a lot we're not. If you want to always see Paris, you can end your trip in Paris or fly in and out of Paris and then take local, regional air within Europe is way cheaper. We flew from Geneva to Nice for less than $100 one way, right? So it's really, really cheap. Getting across the ocean, Delta, American, all those people will stick it to you. Once you get over there, it's actually cheaper to get around. So you think about that.
I hope that you'll tell your friends,
Yeah.
I think word of mouth is maybe the best way for news to get around.
Yeah.
If you have some friends that you'd like to travel with, let them know. If anybody wants to post.
Just give everybody one of those because it's got our contact
Yeah,
on
it's got
there.
our contact.
And it's got the deadline. You can pull up your Sanford, your Apple calendar right now and set your alarm for 6:30 on October 18th. So you
And
wake up in time, right?
the QR code up in the top right is also a direct link to that program
To the
brochure.
page. Yeah, give you all the information. If you want a kind of a breakdown, like a blow by blow, where we're going, we pretty much know what we're doing every day, morning, afternoon, right? We always say there's flexibility and something might change, but if you're really interested, like what are we actually seeing in Wittenberg or in Berlin, I'm happy to walk you through that. So, yeah.
We would love to have all of you in the program, and your name doesn't have to be Owen. Right? If you're, other people besides name Owen.
Well, that's nice. Are these both Owens here? Well, that'll make it easier for me to learn everybody's name. I just went up. I just called Owen out. There you go. All right, we won't keep you anymore. Please let us know, and you're on an email list. I'm not going to spam you, but I will remind you of some deadlines, and feel free to respond back and ask any questions. Blessings, everybody. Thanks.
I might say.